In this video, I'll be discussing how you can unlock your cosmic magic and discover how your soul wishes to co-create with the divine. I'll be giving you an introduction to 3 magical tools, as well as showing you how you can pull your own natal astrology chart and galactic astrology chart for even deeper insights into these tools and how it reflects on you personally and your circumstances right now. Now, before I dive in too deep, I want to take a moment and suggest that you may want to pause this video if you are a visual learner and check out the link in the comments or the description to download my free PDF guide on how to unlock your signature magic, as this will be a great tool to follow along with this video I'm sharing with you today. Now, if this is your first time here, I want to welcome you. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Cassandra DM. I am a certified galactic astrologer and a galactic channeler. And this video that I am sharing with you today is actually a result from some channeled information that was shared to me one morning as I was waking up and found myself receiving guidance on these 3 tools that we're going to be discussing today. So I'm excited to share this information with you. This was very pivotal for myself in awareness in how I was working with co-creation with the divine. And I hope that this is equally as inspiring for you. So that said, let's dive in and get started. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to help walk you through how to pull your natal astrology chart. We're going to talk about that briefly. Then we're going to dive into the meat of this video, which is the galactic astrology portion. As I said, this guide will be helpful to follow along, as it's going to go into more depth to the basics of these tools and how to pull your natal astrology chart. But I want to just lightly touch on it here today. But for more information, definitely click the link and download that guide to read in more depth on that. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to go to my favorite site for pulling your natal astrology chart, and this is astroseek.com. I know this is my login page, but if you don't have a login, that's fine. We're going to be going over to where it says free horoscopes, birth natal chart, and we're going to click that. From here, you're going to put in your birth information. So I'm going to do that now to pull this up. Okay, here we go. We're going to hit calculate chart. Now, the only thing I want you to worry about in this chart is we're going to be looking at the placements of Virgo, Taurus, and Pisces. So if you have a piece of paper or pen with you, you can jot these down. If you have downloaded the PDF, what I'm sharing here will be also illustrated there. And in that PDF, you will see a box in which you can write your information there. For now, if you have a pen and paper, you're going to be writing down the house for Virgo, Taurus, and Pisces. So where my mouse is, this is what those little symbols look like. But we're going to be looking to the left and scrolling down to where it says houses, as you can see here where my mouse is. And all I want you to do is write down the house. So for example, Virgo here, I have 12th house. Okay. Taurus here is 8th house. And then Pisces is 6th house. And my guide will talk a little bit about the houses and what each of those mean. We're going to skip over some of that information today. I just want you to see this on how you can find what house these placements are, because this will connect with the tools that I'm about to discuss with you. Now, pulling your galactic astrology chart, you want to go to galacticastrochart.com/free. And this link will be in the description as well. And once more, we're going to put in our information here. Now, I do prefer the Placidus house system. So we're entering in the birth information. This is the same as we did a moment ago. And we are going to hit generate birth chart data. Okay. And I want you to click show trine, sextile, squares, also show degrees, and then you want to hit generate extended report. Now here you can see a much fuller chart, and this is your Galactic Astrology chart. So these are the two charts that you want to look at, which your natal chart, you only need, like I said, very briefly to know what houses that is. Where the Galactic Astrology chart, you want to pull that because we're going to be looking at placements where you have Virgo, Taurus, or Pisces. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And I'm going to temporarily stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to talk a little bit more with you about these tools. Okay, so now that you've pulled your chart, you should be able to see where these placements are, what houses they are. And why this is important is the tools that were shared with me are called the pen, the paintbrush, and the magic wand. Now, I'm going to briefly share what each of these mean and why it is connected or relevant to your astrology chart. Starting with the pen. The pen is your placement of Virgo. And what the pen represents is when we are considering how we are really bringing our magic into this world, we're starting off with the pen. We're starting off by saying, okay, if you want to start this journey, you're going to need to look in this area, and you're going to have to sort of rewrite or reprogram how you think or feel or look at things a little differently in this area of your life. So the pen is where we are rewriting, we are reworking things. These are areas in which we have to apply some focus. How do we feel about this topic? What does this mean to us? And so when we're looking at the pen, we're looking at the area of our life in which we are diving a little deeper. When we look at the sign of Virgo, Virgo often represents that analytical side of ourselves. Virgo likes to make things more efficient. You know, these are qualities of Virgo. So wherever you have whatever house you wrote down for Virgo, this is going to add in depth to what this means for you and what area of your life that you are working on and diving deeper into. So for example, in my chart, I have this in the 12th house. Now, 12th house is a lot to do with the subconscious. Now, I can say firsthand that I am an overthinker. I overanalyze things. I try to calculate and figure everything out. This results in often a lot of mental fog in my life, especially early on, that I had difficulty with. Virgo also is connected to topics of occult. So it's interesting now to look at my passion for topics of shadow work as well as Virgo in the 12th house. There can be a theme here of, you know, you wanting to overcome, wanting to make things more efficient. So to do so, what do you have to do? Well, you have to dive into the subconscious. You have to look at those things that are hidden, that you don't want to look at, the shadows, and you have to be willing to face them and acknowledge them in order to receive transformation or move forward. And so here, when we're looking at this, my journey is that I experienced a spontaneous awakening, and I've spent a good amount of time doing a lot of inner work and a lot of inner healing. And so understanding in bringing my magic to the world, because that's what we're talking about, unlocking our magic, but also understanding that we're co-creating with the divine in this. So the first step for me is looking at those subconscious layers. And so the pen is Virgo. So check into your chart. I'm curious, where Virgo is for you, how this feels, if it feels like something comfortable. If you're following along in the PDF, which I highly suggest, it has a chart there, not only one chart, there's two ways in which you can look into the different houses and what this means for you. Because I want to cover so much material, I'm going to just leave it at that here. And this is why I'm suggesting to download the PDF, because there's so much more I want to share. But that PDF will go into what each of the houses are for you. Moving on to the next tool, we're going to be looking at Taurus. Now, Taurus is the paintbrush. When we're looking at the paintbrush, this is where we really pull in the human experience and the heart. What is it we want to feel in life? What do we want to taste and smell and be and experience? It's where we embody the human journey, and we can't deny the callings of the experiences and the things that we want to feel. Taurus can have a theme of manifestation. What do you want to experience? What feels good to you? How are you really enriching yourself into this? So when we're talking about the magic we're here to share, was shared with me that it's important to understand your own journey in this experience, what your heart wants to experience, what your soul says the human vessel wants to fill in the blank, and so when we're looking at Taurus, this is the paintbrush. This is where we pull in the colors and smells and scents and experiences, and we really embody the journey. So it's not just about purpose or obligation. I have to do this, but it's your soul's desire. It's that fun part of where you want to explore and where you're curious. So when we're looking into our chart, when we look at the tool and Taurus and the house Taurus is in, this is where you may find that deep piece of yourself that's like, hey, I really want to experience this. Like, I really want to feel fulfilled in this way. And so this is the paintbrush. Now, the third tool is the magic wand. Now, this is where co-creation comes from. So Virgo is that first step. We're rewriting and we're starting the journey. Taurus is the human part of us that's like, okay, what am I getting out of this? What do I want to experience? And then we add in the divine. And this is where the magic happens, when we can take what we desire and we can match it with the divine and create incredible magic and co-creation and fulfillment in our lives. It's if we look at only the surface level of the human experience of wants and desires, for so many of us, we often find that there's still that deeper itch that we can't scratch. And I believe that this is why it is important to understand our magic wand, understand that deeper layer of how we are collaborating with a source greater than our human reality. And so for for the paintbrush, this is your placement of Pisces. Now, Pisces normally rules in the natal astrology chart the 12th house. And this is where we come back to the divine, back to source, back to the deep subconscious, back to the beginning. It's this energy of the spiritual essence of things. I see and feel greatly the energy of Pisces as being a direct channel to the divine. It's like a direct phone line to inspiration and those greater aspects of creativity, even where it goes into mystical realms of like, oh, how did I come up with that? And so with the Pisces energy, this is where we have the magic with the divine, where we start co-creating. So when you're pulling your chart, like I had you write down, you can see from the information already shared that by understanding these placements, you can look into, whoa, what am I co-creating with the divine on? How does that feel? Is that feeling exciting to you? But what I really want to do is take this even deeper. And this is through Galactic Astrology. Now, in the PDF, I do mention that this is possible, but to keep the PDF simple, I didn't go into it. So this video, now I'm going to dive in even deeper of how you can look at your Galactic Astrology chart and find even richer content to explore. And I'm going to use my personal chart and a few of my aspects as an example so that you can start to see how this unwinds. And towards the end of the video, I'm going to look at it from a traditional astrology perspective. I'm going to add the galactic astrology layer, and hopefully you can start to see how my story unfolds and how you can look at this information as well. Now, the last thing I want to mention before I dive into this is please understand when you're looking at it from a galactic astrology perspective, the aspects are being based off of your planets. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. So that said, if your actual chart does not include any particular planets in your house of Virgo, Taurus, or Pisces, you may not be able to see a particular aspect. However, if you were to get a reading and we see what stars are in where that aligns on your chart, we could dive deeper into that, but I want to try to keep this as simplistic as possible. So for the sake of this video, see if you have Pisces, Virgo, or Taurus here. So to do that, you're going to look at where it says zodiac degree, which is a second column, and scroll until you see these three signs or one of these three signs. You may have multiple, like for example, I have a multiple with Virgo. So all of, for example, here, Jupiter and Virgo 11th house, all of these placements here would be galactic energies that are influencing my journey as it relates to my pen and how I'm rewriting. And so you can see there's a lot here and there's so much I can cover, but we're going to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to take that screen off and I'm going to dive in with you on each of these tools and give you an example. I'm going to start off with the pen, Virgo. And so I've pulled one placement of Virgo that is connected, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this. And so this is fun. Even if you're not familiar with all the things I've shared, I am going to be talking about some of these galactic races and their characteristics. So that's always exciting for me to cover and go into. So we're going to look at my own chart, and the placement I want to talk about is I have this I have the star Regulus connected to Jupiter in Virgo in the 11th house, and this is a opposition position. Now, don't worry too much about what that means, because I'm going to give you like a recap that'll spell it all out really simply. Now, the first thing I want to do is, when we're talking about these connections, what we're looking at is we're saying, okay, when it comes to my pen, when it comes to what I'm rewriting, what galactic races am I connected to that are influencing or helping me and how I'm navigating this journey. Now, from a galactic astrology perspective, this placement may not fall identically in the same house as earlier I said my Virgo ruler was 12th house. However, in the natal wheel, depending on where it falls, planets may fall within a sign, but not necessarily be the 12th house. And so this for me is a placement in the 11th house. Okay. And we'll talk more about what that means. So when we're looking at Regulus, each galactic race has certain characteristics or traits. And so some of the characteristics of Regulus is, for one, they are considered to be connected to the celestial fae or the elemental beings. So magical creatures of sense. They are also considered to be natural healers. They are highly, highly intuitive. They are very compassionate. They are naturally charismatic and very brave. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of this. Now, I actually have a link on, I can put in the description, a page on my website in which I've channeled information from Regulus. And one of the things I'm going to read to you from my site, a quote that stood out to me in connecting with these beings. What they said to me was, consciousness here can transform, mutate, and suddenly manifest into whatever form it desires. Okay, so now that we have some information on these characteristics, so you can say, when it comes to Virgo, my pen, and rewriting, we can then look at this galactic race and how does it apply? Well, let me tell you. First thing is, ever since my spiritual awakening, anybody that has done an intuitive reading for me or visited my Akashic records usually points out that the fairies are connected to me, which I found for the longest time before galactic astrology very ironic, because I don't really necessarily connect with fairies. I've never been a fairy type child or entertained anything of this nature. So when I would have people notice this, it always felt odd to me, because I thought, why would fairies be connected to me? I know lots of people that seem like they'd be connected to the fairies, but surely I am not one of them. But as I certified in galactic astrology and unlocked my galactic astrology chart, I got more information into how I'm connected and why this is challenging for me. In the beginning, when I mentioned this placement, I said it was an opposition. Okay, which this means that while I have had a past life here and I am connected to this race, early in life especially, I may not feel connected. I may not feel these things. Or this could also mean that while I have these gifts and abilities, they might not feel comfortable. They might not feel like there's something I want to necessarily step into. You can already start to see here where Virgo, the pen, is rewriting and reshaping the stories. It's interesting because this morning alone, I was having a conversation and my partner said to me, for the month of April, it would be beneficial for me to sort of do things that were completely senseless and had no reason, just because. And that's unsettling for me. I'm very structured and logical. I like things to have a purpose and be clear. But here we have this energy of Regulus where they're like, consciousness can be whatever it wants and just like mutate and form and, fairies and unexpected and magical. And my logical mind is like, what am I supposed to do with that? Oh, and another quality of Virgo can be where we are overly critical, we are overly structured or analytical. We want things to be precise and, value precision and good execution. But it's like sometimes life is messy and all that's hard for me to navigate. So here you can see when we're looking at the pen and how this energy is helping me. This is probably why people, when they connect, are like, the fairies are there. The fairies are there because they're probably knocking on my door. Hey, are you ready to play yet? Are you ready to play yet? And so I'm rewriting and growing to be more comfortable with the unpredictable, the unknown, the magical, and things that don't make logical sense. Okay. So I'm hoping that helps you see how that sort of comes into play. Now, the next one we'll look into is Taurus and the paintbrush. Now, this one is a tricky one for me because this one is connected to my Chiron. Now, for this particular placement, my galactic influences come from Andromeda. And as I said, this is connected to Chiron, and this is in my 7th house, and this is a conjunction. Now, when we're looking at Andromedan traits, first off, the constellation of Andromeda is considered the chained woman. Now, some of the traits, this is a highly evolved race. However, there are some interesting qualities that they carry, such as freedom is super important and could be considered almost like their top priority. But part of their journey is in discovering that freedom that they're seeking ultimately is coming from within and not really so related to external. Now, another thing is they can be overly self-critical. This isn't even a Virgo placement, but here we go. Self-critical again. Also, they have a quality in which they are good at repressing or hiding their fears and doubts to the point to where sometimes it can almost feel like there's two different faces or two different expressions: what feels safe, the role that they want to fit in or others to perceive, and then what they feel internally or what they repress. Now, another quality is they tend to be very introspective thinkers. Also, they have a desire for justice or a sensitivity to justice. And they are very spiritually aware, as I mentioned, but also they can tend to do things the hard way or to go about, things making them a little more difficult or challenging for themselves. So when we're looking at this in my own life, there's so much that could be said. Keeping it as brief as possible, my journey was that I had grown up in a religiously abusive home in which I did suppress a lot. I did try to be the good daughter. I ultimately at 18 left the house and got into a relationship in which then I tried to be the good wife. And while there was not a healthy balance, and my partner at the time kept me at a bit of a distance, I ended up becoming hyper independent, doing things myself, taking care of myself, entertaining myself. And I, as a result, began suppressing my human desire for intimacy. I disconnected from art and music and anything that connected to my life force. I hyperfixated on spirituality and purpose. And, very different from Regulus, which we just spoke of, that is very light and mutable and unknown and magical and elemental, and so this had been my journey. A year ago, I had a mystical experience in which I realized that my marriage was over, and I entered into this new time period of feeling like I was just going to be completely, healed enough that I didn't need anybody. I was just going to be my own individual and life would be just dandy. However, I've realized that I've connected to my heart and those deeper aspects of myself that craved and desired connection through, close partners, close friends, close collaborations with others. But this has been a very challenging journey. But when we're looking at it from the perspective of the paintbrush, we can look at it by saying, okay, I tried to ignore the human experience, which is true. The human experience can be challenging to accept, natural desires and natural experiences and want things. Spirituality can be more comfortable. You can get lost in the sense of doing everything for a purpose and reason, which is, once again, very opposite of the Regulus energy that came through. So it's like by looking at that as the pen, rewriting it, coming to the paintbrush and being real with myself and saying, okay, yes, I do want to experience these things. These are two helpful tools, and ultimately realizing the magic in which I'm here to unlock and share and how I'm co-creating with the universe. Okay, I'm going to bring it down even deeper simply at the end, but for now, that's good. Let's move on to the last tool, which is the magic wand. Now, for the magic wand, this placement that I'm sharing today is connected to Hadar, and it's connected to my Mercury in Pisces in the 5th house. And this is a trine placement. Now, when we're looking at the Hadarians, some of their traits are that they are naturally drawn to the arts. I just said how I was repressing the arts. Naturally drawn to the arts. They're very open-minded. They are also masters of spiritual evolution. So this theme has been consistent through all three tools for me. They also have whimsical personalities, endless compassion. They're playful. They love to have fun, which is also similar to Regulus energy. They also are gifted with working in multiple dimensions and bending time and space. They're galactic travelers and love travel. Okay. So now when we're looking at these qualities and we're reflecting this, I find it interesting because it's taken me a long time to come around to be comfortable with galactic astrology or the whole star seed concept or life outside of Earth as it is. It's taking me a long time to come around. But through this work, I've seen so many incredible stories that just make me feel like I come alive and feel this sense of magic. Okay. And so with this, I've said even that my work as an Akashic Records reader with Galactic Astrology and unlocking these past lives for my clients, it's exciting. It's fun. It's fun to get glimpses into other worlds and other realms of possibilities. And so it excites my inner child, which is very much a 5th house theme, which is where this placement comes in. It's the 5th house is the heart. It's normally ruled by Leo. It's that special thing. It's creativity, all of these things. And when we look at Mercury, it also ties in elements of what you speak about, how you think. I am a galactic channel, and I have been receiving information and channeling, and the more I do it, the more I feel like I feel like I come into the magic. And so, all right, now that we've covered the tools, I want to sort of break it down now from a traditional astrology perspective, galactic astrology, and then sort of a summary of how this winds together. And so when we're looking at the pen here, my particular placement in the 12th house for Virgo, it's diving into the subconscious, and also we can look at this as restructuring how I think and logic and confronting shadow, like going through understanding. For example, you may notice I don't use the word manifestation a lot. I tend to say creation or creating with, and so that's something I can go in and look at. Okay, what's the shadow of that? Why is there challenges behind this word? Okay, so it's reshaping how I think and feel. Now, from the galactic perspective, we added more layer to understanding that there is tension between structured thinking and then spontaneous creation. So it's like, I love the idea of saying you can create anything, but it's been a journey for me in recognizing how am I playing with this energy when there's no logical explanation, and is that okay? And so when we tie it together, the sentence I wrote is that I'm embracing the unknown and service as an example of that. So going through what I'm going through is serving as an example to others like myself that may have challenges in the same area of believing in the magic. Isn't that funny? This piece of me now. Here I am. I talk about magic and I talk about these things, but I talk about them because it's been a journey of like coming in and getting comfortable. And every day, I still work on this, and I still look at the things I tell myself and how I feel about these topics. All right. Then, as we're looking into Taurus, this is in my 8th house. So when we're looking at it simply from that perspective, you can say that I'm learning to fully embrace transformative journeys, deeper connections, and embodiment of my senses. Like I said, I was trying to suppress them. When we look at it from a galactic perspective, it brings insights into the ways in which Chiron, my placement, it's the wounded healer. It's saying, yes, you've had these challenges with relationships and, coming to terms with this being something you do want, but you're meant to transform how you look at your relationships. And when I put it down into a sentence, we can look at this is by I'm learning not avoiding relationships, being real with myself with those desires and supporting those desires, not suppressing them, and then feeling like I can show up in the essence of who I am and be accepted, engage with others without feeling like there's this pressure to be perceived in a certain way or fit a certain role or masking what I'm feeling for the sake of another. And lastly, the magic wand. This is my 6th house from a traditional astrology perspective. So this is saying that I'm here to bring sort of like a spiritual essence, commune divine wisdom to everyday experience, and that I serve in this way as this house is connected to how we serve others. Looking at it from a galactic perspective, it puts sight into my ability to to work in multiple dimensions, in my ability to read the Akashic records, and also to channel higher knowledge. And when we pull this both together, this is understanding that I am here to wield this ability to commune in which, or bring information of the divine in which it helps serve in the everyday, and how you are connecting to also those different realms. And, as a galactic astrologer, and I haven't said this, but, publicly, but I've been doing a lot of trance channeling privately, and I've unlocked some incredible things, and it's lighting me up, and it's feeling playful, which I'm sure the Hadarians who are influencing this would love. So there you have it. This video, I feel like I covered so much, and I know it's probably a lot to bite off. So let's just break it down. You have the pen, where you're rewriting, the paintbrush, where you're looking at that heart human perspective, your senses. What do you want to experience? And then your magic wand is how you are bringing your magic into the world by looking at that higher calling, that co-creating with the divine, and bringing forth, creating, dare I say, manifesting what you want in this reality. So I hope that this was exciting. There are so many ways you could take this information even deeper, such as looking at these aspects. I know personally, past lives I've had that tie in equally deeper with what I already discussed already. For example, my past life in Hadar was that I did portal work. I was able to, work with energy and the frequency of travel through portals and going through portals. And so this ties into also my desire in this life to visit different locations and want to travel, and my sensitivity that I have to energy as it relates to the environment. And so you can look at this too as and say, oh, what fun ways to consider. Where am I going? What could I do? How am I collaborating with the divine and what I'm sharing with these gifts? So it's so exciting. I just love it. If you want to dive in deeper and maybe unlock some of your own past lives or learn more about your own connections to these galactic races, I invite you to check out my site, contact me to look into diving deeper. I would love to do a private reading with you. And I can just say they're extremely transformative. It will absolutely change how you are experiencing your life right now in pretty much every area. So, and this is because you're simply coming online. You're connecting with all those aspects of who you are, because your soul's journey and connection to these races, it's your family. That's why they're assisting. That's why they're helping. And it's in your DNA, and it's part of your gifts. And you may not even understand some of the things now, but a reading can give you those aha moments you're looking for. So thank you so much for watching. And if you didn't download the PDF before, feel free to go check it out. Download my guide in unlocking your own, signature magic. And until next time, have a lovely, magical day. Bye.